iPhone 14 versus iPhone 12, which to buy? Should you upgrade from the iPhone 12 to the 14? That is the aim of today's video. Now, you can see right away that the 14 is going to give you a little bit of a different notch, similar to what the iPhone 13 gives you. The boxes are actually basically the same, just gonna have different colors depending on which color you do go with. So this unboxing experience is still nice on both, but about the same. There is no chargers in the box. Keep in mind the storage on the iPhone 14 does come in at 128 gigs to start, and that is at $799. So this phone with taxes is going to be well over $800 on the iPhone 14. Now keep in mind that Apple still actually sells the Apple iPhone 12 right here, and this one starts at $599, and that's for 64 gigabytes. But also you can get the iPhone 12 for a higher price point of $799, or actually $749, with the 256 gigabyte variety. So its highest price point has more storage than the beginning price point of the iPhone 14, but that doesn't mean it's a better purchase. We'll talk about that as we go along. So let's begin by just discussing the body and the build. Taking it off to the right side, you're going to see that we do have power buttons in the same location. Looks like the 5G antenna right there in the same location. We also do have a little bit of a bigger one there. So also keep in mind the 14 actually has better 5G performance. It's got a better Qualcomm modem inside of it, meaning you're going to get faster speeds. Down here at the bottom, you can see these are in the same location. It looks like the power button's in a slightly different location on the iPhone 14, slightly lower. That might be better for actually hitting that power button. If we go off to the back here, you're going to see the camera housing definitely has bigger lenses on the iPhone 14, and you can see the backs overall look about the same. At the bottom, let's take it off to the bottom here. You're going to see that we do have lightning ports and precisionally drilled holes in the same areas, torque screws, same areas. Over here on the left side, you're going to find yourself silent switch a little bit higher there on the iPhone 12, volume markers a little bit lower on the 14, as well as that silent switch on the 14. So the 14 might be a little bit more comfortable to reach those buttons. At the bottom, big deal of a change here. We do have SIM card tray and then eSIM support here in the US only on the iPhone 14. So some people are not happy about that, but definitely I gotta say both of these feel about the same when it comes to that build and design. There is a couple of minor differences you've seen, and the notch definitely a little bit deeper there on the iPhone 14, a little longer here. I actually put a 14 screen protector on the 12. That's why that notch screen protector looks a little bit funny. But overall, I gotta say, if I was picking between these two and I didn't have one already, I just get the 14 because similar phone and it's more up to date. But if you have the 12 and you really are looking for a big change, this is not going to be the big change right here, the 14. It will be subtle changes, but it's not going to be like a groundbreaking difference for you. It'll be a nice 2-year update. Let's take it on to display. Both of these do have Super Retina OLED displays. Again, the notches are a little bit different, but they do kind of intrude on the display in the same type of fashion, so it's not going to be that different. They're both also 6.1-inch displays, which I think are quite comfortable. But here's the thing, the 14 has been 2 updates now from the 12, and it's still 60 hertz. So it's not that much, it actually is not really smoother at all than the iPhone 12 when scrolling through anything. They also do employ the same resolution. So overall, when you actually look close at text, it's equally sharp on both phones. They're both OLED, both 460, and they have the same 19:9 aspect ratio. But what does change here for these two is one specific thing, and it definitely is a win to the iPhone 14. It's pretty noticeable actually, and that's the brightness. You get much more brightness, 800 nits and 1200 nits peak. So the iPhone 14 actually has brightness equivalent to some of the older Pros, whereas the 12 has that older style 625 nit brightness that we've seen on iPhones ever since like the iPhone 4S and 5S days. Definitely a little bit older when it comes to how bright it does get. But in terms of that, the rest of it is basically the same panel. There's not really much else to talk about here with displays. I think overall though, if you were picking one of these two and you didn't have one, I would definitely swing for the 14 simply because I'm gonna get a brighter display outdoors. All right, so the Apple iPhone 14 does have a faster CPU. We know that it's an Apple A15 Bionic. Some people are a little concerned that the iPhone 14 is going to get the same years of updates as the 13. I don't agree with that, and simply because Apple did increase the RAM for the first time here on these standard iPhones. It's been 4 gigs ever since. Well, actually, they did it on the 11 with the iPhone XR, but you can see right here we do have 4 gigabytes of RAM on the iPhone 12. So definitely a couple gigs update of RAM on the iPhone 14 should make for a little bit longer software support than 13. But in terms of these two, if you didn't have one, getting the 12 is not really, I think, a great use of money anymore, because it's already 2 years in, so you're going to get less updates for like a couple $100 less. You might as well just get the 14. And you'll see it does have a higher clock speed of 3.23 gigahertz versus 2.99. In the real world, though, I can talk all these specs all day. Right now, you don't really see any performance gains, even though it technically is a faster phone. On the left, the average person will not notice. So if you're coming from a 12 and you want to pick up one of these new 14 models, you know, if you want to go to the Plus, that makes sense. But don't go in the store thinking you're going to get the 14 and come out with some blazing faster feeling phone. It just doesn't feel like that between these two. That would be more for the iPhone 14 Pros with their smoother 120Hz ProMotion displays. So if you want to have that feeling like my phone just feels faster and snappier than the iPhone 12, you'll want to get one of the Pro models, not the 14. But if you do get this, rest assured you are going to get similar, if not a little bit better performance and longer term support. Now, when it comes to software, both of these phones do feature themselves the same iOS software, iOS 16. So it doesn't matter if you're using the iPhone 14, you're going to get essentially the same software. 16.0.1 is a specific fix for 14. It's still essentially the same software. No matter if you're in the app library, you're scrolling through the home screens, whatever you're doing, you're not going to have anything different feeling than the iPhone 14. Everybody knows iOS is the same across pretty much every iPhone. There is one area that it is different though, and that is in camera. When you're looking at the software, you do have photographic styles. You don't get that on the iPhone 12, unfortunately. So if you're looking for those specific styles that just match how you like to take photos, I would definitely pick the iPhone 14. Also, in the camera, you do have action, and I'm going to tie the camera into this section just because we're talking about it. You do have the action mode here, which you do not have on the 14. And so the cameras here with the dual 12 megapixel setup definitely have better low light performance in the 12, and they have better cinematic video. You also don't get that on the iPhone 12. So I do think if you care about the camera, this is a pretty sizable upgrade. Definitely feels kind of like a Pro Light kind of phone here with this camera. So definitely I would swing for it if you care a lot about the camera. But one of the things that I really don't like about the 14 is it's lacking zoom. So when you zoom in, just like with the iPhone 12, you're just not going to be able to reach that far in the real world. I mean, I'm here right next to these boxes, so it looks like I can zoom amazingly well. But in reality, anytime you go to a concert or an event, or you go anywhere where you need to zoom, you know, vacation, whatever you got to do, you got to zoom in on some architecture, whatever you want to do. It just doesn't reach that far on either of these phones, and it doesn't look that great when you are zooming. Other than that, take a look at some of my samples and let me know your thoughts about both of them. I took a few. All I seen mostly was that the iPhone 14 had an actual better like light. It was just a little bit brighter with the photos. It also was a little bit sharper. And before I show you those samples quickly, the front-facing camera has autofocus now and cinematic 4K video on the front. So it's also an improved front-facing camera. So this is the real big upgrade here between these two. It is the cameras. Another reason to consider upgrading the iPhone 12 to the 14 is battery life. It has well over 3,000 milliamp hour on here. This one's 2,800 at the same size screen, a less efficient CPU. What do you think is going to happen? Well, the iPhone 14 is going to have much better battery life. That's what's going to happen. And it does. The iPhone 12 is a phone that I had to charge sometimes during the day. The iPhone 14 is a phone that I never have to think about that. So If you've had this a couple years and you just want better battery, you want a better camera, you're looking at the 14. This is an awesome choice. Just don't expect it to be a worlds of a different iPhone. The iPhone experience itself is just not that different between these. Audio performance is also quite similar on both these phones. Do keep in mind though, this does have better phone call, reception and stuff like that, has better modem. I mean, the iPhone 12 is not bad, but we do have a better modem here in the iPhone 14. It also has faster 5G support. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. I don't have much more to say. They both still have Face ID, neither has Dynamic Island. These phones just feel super similar. It's just the subtle camera and battery upgrades here. In addition, the subtle change to the notch. If you didn't have the iPhone 13, I mean, the iPhone 13 was similar to the 14, like almost the same phone. But I think this is a pretty good 2-year upgrade, but just don't expect something revolutionary. If you want to hold out with your 12, go for it. I mean, it's not a big deal. You'll probably have a bigger change next year. I also think getting the iPhone 14 Plus would be a bigger change from your iPhone 12 because you're going to get a bigger screen and these upgrades we talked about here in this video. Other than that, both of them still solid phones, and it makes sense why Apple still sells both of them. Let me know your thoughts on these two down below in the comment section of this video. If you have any more questions about this upgrade, you're considering it, go ahead and leave them down below. People will chat with you. I'll try to get back to as many comments as possible. Subscribe for more iPhone content as well as upcoming Pixel content later this year. I'll catch you all in the next one. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.